Yes, greetings. So I put together this short reflective piece about the Book of Jubilees and some of the things that I learnt from it, or some of the main points of learning or overstanding and reflection. And there's so many things in the Book of Jubilees that can be pulled out. This by no means does justice to all of it, or even scratch the surface, because there's so much. But for me, after reading today's chapter, this is definitely how I related to it. But it's definitely a book that I want to go back to, as I think time and time again we'll start to see different things in the Book of Jubilees. So by no means do I think this will be the end of my studying of the book. But it has been a fantastic journey going forward. So this is just my short reflection. Give thanks for these few words. To understand what the Book of Jubilees teaches about the Sabbath, which is 7 days, sabbatical years, which is the passing of 7 years, and Jubilees anniversaries, which are 49 years. 7 sabbatical years times 7 equals 49. We need to see that the Book of Jubilees presents time itself as a moral structure. Time carries obligation, limits and accountability. Human ambition moves within this structure rather than standing above it. In Jubilee, Sabbath comes first. The Sabbath establishes a weekly interruption of human control, work pauses, production pauses, planning pauses. This pause teaches that creation, through God's sustaining power, continues, rather than through constant human effort. Sabbath reminds Israel, the people of God, that life flows from divine order rather than endless activity. Jubilees places extraordinary emphasis on the precision of Sabbath observance. The concern goes far beyond rest from labour. The Sabbath reaches into agriculture, travel, warfare, trade, and mastery over animals. By suspending every category of control at once, the Sabbath trains humility. Humanity steps back from dominion and remembers its place within creation. This weekly pattern expands into sabbatical years of the 7 years. The land itself enters rest. Fields receive release. Productivity yields to restraint. And Jubilees treats the land as a living participant in covenant life. The land belongs to God and receives its own rhythm of rest and recovery. Human beings serve as tenants rather than owners. Sabbatical years reshapes economic imagination. Accumulation slows, extraction pauses. Long-term planning gives way to trust. Jubilees presents this rhythm as protection against exploitation, exhaustion, and arrogance. Wealth receives boundaries, power receives limits, and the future rests within God's timing. Jubilee years, the 49 years, expands this discipline further. Jubilees views history through cycles rather than through endless progress. Debts are released, inheritance returns, families regain standing, generations receive recalibration. Jubilees prevents history from hardening into permanent inequality. Time itself restores balance. So through Jubilee observances, the Book of Jubilees teaches that history moves forward through correction as well as growth. Covenant faith requires periodic realignment. Human success remains provincial, and achievement stands accountable to divine order. These structures serve a shared purpose. Sabbath humbles the individual. Sabbatical years humbles the economy, and Jubilees observances humble history. Together, they prevent humanity from assuming total mastery over time, land, and destiny. Jubilees frames this system as heavenly rather than merely practical. Heavenly tablets reserve these rhythms. Sacred time mirrors cosmic order. Israel receives these patterns as participation in divine governance. Obedience aligns earthly life with heavenly design. This theology addresses ambition directly. Jubilees recognizes ambition as powerful and productive. Ambition builds cities, organizes societies, and sustains society and survival. Jubilees also understands ambition's tendency to overreach. When ambition governs time without restraint, it reshapes everything into instruments of gain. Sabbath interrupts that momentum. Sabbatical years weakens its grip, and Jubilees, observances of the 49 years, resets its direction. Through these structures, God remains sovereign over productivity, prosperity, and progress. Jubilees also connects these rhythms with moral purification. The land becomes clean as time unfolds according to God's order. Accusation fades, corruption loses ground, and covenant life stabilizes through disciplined time. This vision reaches beyond ancient Israel. Jubilee speaks into every age tempted by unchecked growth and total control. It offers a model where restraint strengthens life rather than limiting it. Rest becomes an act of trust, release becomes an act of justice, and cycles become acts of wisdom. Jubilees teaches that holiness emerges through structure. Freedom grows within boundaries, and human flourishing requires submission to greater rhythms than ambition. In this way, Sabbath, sabbatical years, and Jubilees functions as gifts rather than burdens. They protect humanity from self-destruction. They guard creation from exhaustion, and they preserve covenant identity across generations. The Book of Jubilees presents time as sacred territory. Humanity lives well by honouring that territory rather than conquering it. Alongside this disciplined vision of time, the Book of Jubilees introduces a complex figure who helps explain why restraint, patience, and order matter so deeply. That figure is Matsema. Matsema appears in Jubilees as an angelic prosecutor, a tester, and an accuser. He operates within divine permission and functions as an agent of exposure. His role concerns judgment, accountability, and the testing of fidelity. Jubilees portrays him as active, where covenant life stands at risk of collapse or premature judgment. In Jubilees 48, Moses receives insight into moments from his own life where Matsema sought grounds for accusation. One involved covenant obedience within Moses' household. Another concerned Israel's vulnerability during the Exodus. In both moments, divine restraint preserved the covenant until faithfulness could fully emerge. Matsema's role clarifies that redemption unfolds through timing, maturation, and moral readiness. After this point in Jubilees, Matsema no longer appears explicitly. His disappearance carries meaning. The book has already established this function. Later biblical literature expresses similar dynamics through other figures, including the accuser in Job. The continuity lies in the role rather than the name. The task of testing, exposing, and weighing faith persists across generations. Jubilees presents Matsema as a necessary tension within the moral universe. Faith deepens through encounter with scrutiny. Obedience strengthens through challenge, and covenant endurance develops through resistance rather than ease. This perspective allows an allegorical reading that speaks directly to inner life. Matsema can represent the force of inner accusation, the voice that demands coherence between belief and action, that force exposes contradiction, complacency and unfinished obedience. When ignored or indulged, it becomes destructive. When disciplined and rightly ordered, it becomes formative. Within the human soul, this energy tests sincerity. It pressures faith to move beyond sentiment into practice. It challenges surface devotion and calls forth integrity. Jubilees invites readers to understand that such pressure serves growth when guided by divine order. Sabbath, sabbatical years, and Jubilee years offer the structure that governs this inner force. Rest interrupts accusation, sacred time restrains judgment, and cycles of release prevent inner scrutiny from hardening into despair or self-destruction. The covenant teaches when to act, when to wait, and when to trust timing beyond immediate resolution. In this way, Matsema's presence deepens the message of Jubilees rather than contradicts it. Human ambition requires restraint. Inner accusation requires boundaries, and faith flourishes where testing operates within divine awareness and mercy. Jubilees shows that true faith develops through alignment rather than suppression. Discipline shapes desire, and structure channels intensity. Obedience matures through time rather than urgency. Through this lens, Matsema becomes a mirror rather than a menace. He reflects the seriousness of covenant life. He reminds the reader that faith demands coherence, patience, and humility. Divine sovereignty governs both growth and testing. The Book of Jubilees ultimately presents a world where time, law, testing, and mercy work together. Human beings grow into responsibility through restraint. Faith strengthens through ordered challenge, and covenant life endures through balance rather than domination. This integrated vision offers a profound theology of human formation. It teaches how ambition, scrutiny, and obedience find their proper role within sacred time. So for these few words, I give thanks, blessings, and love. And it truly is an honour and a privilege to be reading these. And I offer these thoughts in humbleness, with humility, with deep humility, and with tentativeness, because I am not the authority. I'm just someone learning the Bible every day. Every day I'm reading, I'm learning what I'm reading, I'm studying each day. And so, ones and ones study for themselves. This is just my small offering, and I give thanks to God Almighty, blessings and love. And tomorrow, God willing, I'll be starting the book of Enoch. Yet a for cure, blessings and love.